Hi folks, Laura Wilsey here with Heidi Potter, here to welcome you to the week number 4 of the Horse Speak Fundamentals. We're so excited to have you all with us here today, and we're hoping you're having a good time practicing all the items that you've learned via this webinar, and whether you're watching the DVD or any of the other Horse Speak materials to help you have the epic rapport and relationship that you've always wanted with your horses. And we're so pleased that you've decided to take the time out of your personal lives to share it with Heidi and I. Forget about sharing. It's just about Heidi and I. And no, that's why you're really here. Yeah. So we're looking forward to having more adventures out to visit more folks, so that we just got back from Oregon. We're out in Naples, New York. We're looking forward to heading back to Germany, the Netherlands. So we've got some inquiries about California and Virginia. So we're looking forward to meeting everybody out and about, and so everyone can get the hands-on experience with Sharon. It's just, you know, you think you're benefiting from this webinar. Wait till you work with her in person. So Heidi's going to go over a couple things, and then Sharon's going to get on with you. And if you might have noticed, we have this, we have a green screen behind us right now. And so just let us know what you think of our new background, and we can interchange it. And yeah, we're really excited to try to raise up in the technology as we grow here with Horse Speak. So take it away, Heidi.
Yeah, and you'll notice it's not really green. It's kind of weird. And there's a lot of things kind of floating around. I don't know what that's about, but I'm going to try to.
You have a green halo.
Oh, yeah, great. Anyways, glad you guys are here tonight. I had fun kind of going over this webinar and editing it a little bit to get ready for tonight's show. And what a great webinar this is. You guys are going to get into a little bit of a little more depth on X and O and go away face. Sharon will cover levels of intensity with you, which is really important, because what can happen with humans is when we need to get our intensity up, we tend to get emotional about it. And horses don't do that. So there's some really nice images in there. Some of them are horses from my herd. We're just lucky we have a mix. And there's Mike, the white one, who's a mentor, and then there's a little Knight, a little Morgan, who you see a lot in these videos, and pick images that come across in PowerPoint. And they are such good teachers. So you're going to have a good time looking at those sequences and really getting to see what a horse uses in his intensity levels, but knowing they're always at zero inside. So it's a great thing for us to practice with our horses. And then it ends with enrichment, which is what we're all looking for. So you get some good ideas about how to create enrichment in all of the interactions that you have with your horse. So it's going to be a good night. So thanks for joining us, and Sharon will be on soon.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Horse Speak Fundamentals. So we're going to just recap, make sure that we're familiar with everything on the same page. And so last time we talked about the paradigm shift. We talked about Horse Speak coming from horses, and I just want to mention that again, because there is a difference between communicating with horses using body language that's similar to the body language that they use, and training a horse, which is creating a behavior that we're trying to shape and modify. So there's a difference there, and so Horse Speak is really coming from my evidence and observation of horses communicating with horses, and then our close enough adaptation to that. We talked a bit about horse traits and breeding, and also pair bonding last time. We did the 13 buttons. We combined the buttons, bubbles, and quadrants. We talked about the 4 Gs, the greeting ritual, and how to approach, and the idea of starting to spiral in instead of just walk right in. Whoops, went backwards. Sorry about that. Okay, so this time we're going to talk about the value of rapport and body language awareness, X and O, levels of intensity, active versus passive release. We're going to talk about active zero, which seems like an oxymoron, going to zero in the herd, and enrichment. So let's talk about the value of rapport and why that's important. So Horse Speak allows you to fill in the gaps of understanding with horses that naturally exist with our house pets. So we live with cats and dogs generally. Some people have birds as pets. We have a quail. We used to have a quail. We now have chickens. And when you live with a pet, you're in the day in and day out of communication with them. And since animals use their body language to communicate. I mean, dogs and cats can make some sounds, horses can make some sounds, but they do not iterate a complete speech pattern like we do. So we learn if they sit by the door, they need to go out. If they sit on the cabinet, they're looking for food, whatever. So we learn these things because most of us value a deeper rapport with our horses. My goal in sharing Horse Speak is to give you a better barometer of what success feels like in the relationship with our horses. With house pets, a natural and mutual understanding of body language evolves because we live with them, as I just said. When we are thinking of what is right or wrong, like how to lead a horse or how to line up at the mounting block, we try to measure whether we are building relationship or interfering with it. So really what I'm talking about is when we show up for our horses, usually we're thinking of what I need to get done. And a lot of times we're thinking, I need to spend time with my horse, and that means a certain set of things. I need to get him, ride him, brush him, wash him, whatever it is. But when we're spending time with our cat or our dog, we're not saying, oh, I need to spend quality time with my cat. I'm on my lap and I'm going to pat 30 times, stroke the cat. Okay, so that's not what we do. What's right and what's wrong and methods versus your value system. Okay, so Horse Speak is not about training or drilling. You do not have to teach this to a horse. You learn it for yourself. So what we're doing is basing our communication on the way that horses communicate with each other, the system that they use, like the 4 Gs, the 13 buttons, which is going through the whole body, the way that they enter a conversation, the way that they navigate personal space, moving somewhere together, dealing with hierarchy, and finally, the way that they settle into what I call the grooming phase or the grooming ritual, which is basically they've arrived at a place of satisfaction and well-being, and they're feeling like, I can be with you, I can spend time with you. And that there's also a gone phase in there. So every time there's a pause, there's a breath, even a short leave. Like sometimes you'll do a few things with a horse and they want to walk away. And people will think, oh, he's ignoring me. Oh, no, he's not ignoring you. It's part of their cycle. Sometimes they need to go walk away to settle and to kind of let the information percolate or to think about it. Just like us, sometimes we'll say, I just need to take a walk. I need a minute. I need a minute to think about it. They're the same way. So it's understanding that if you're communicating with a horse, you're going to have to shift your paradigm a little bit. It doesn't mean you can't do things or get things done. It just means taking a different perspective. So let's troubleshoot a couple of things. If you have a rescue or a medial horse or a horse with poor socialization, certain aspects of Horse Speak could be a little more challenging, okay? Because you're asking the horse to bring up the internal struggle that he's already experiencing on some level. For example, the horse won't do a simple go away face. This is the simplest thing to do. There's a greet, there's a go away face. It could be just, I move my face, the horse moves his face, done. It could be, I'm going to step to the side and ask him to move over a little bit, done. If that's hard, then a lot of times the horse hasn't had good socialization, hasn't had a good mentor. Perhaps he had some rough training at some point. Usually it's not just this sort of flippant answer, or it's just his personality, because any horse who's existed in a balanced herd has learned how to deal with being in a herd and learned how to manage himself and learn how to use Horse Speak, because that's how they communicate. So if the horse is having a hard time with something as simple as go away face, something has happened in that horse's life where he's associating you with a certain kind of pressure. He may be associating other horses with that certain kind of pressure too. In other words, you're in a fix-it position. It's like, this should be normal. This shouldn't be a problem. So if it is, then it's something that you'll need to pay attention to, but it's not something that you have to teach them. That's the difference. So we're going to talk a little bit about boundaries. And I know I go over this a lot, but it's really important. And I find that human beings, we have a different a lot of us have a different approach to what we think boundaries mean to what I'm talking about with horses. So because of their size, we need clear boundaries to feel safe with a horse's contact. Horses do value closeness, but they follow rules of engagement which set up appropriate contact between other horses. When we understand these protocols, we can have a much easier time creating both connection and respect, okay? So what I'm really trying to say is that it's nice to have a horse want to make contact with you and sniff you and come close, but if you don't have appropriate bubble space, personal space, and they don't have appropriate bubble space, it can feel overwhelming. And just because on one hand, one part of your brain is going, ooh, this is exciting, your heart rate might have gone up, your breathing might have gotten tight, you could have created a little bit of tension, the back of your brain just a little bit. In this situation, if that was me, just a little piece of the back of my brain would be saying, don't nip me, right? And just that little bit of hesitation is going to send a message. So having an appropriate boundary says, I want the contact, but I want to make sure that the horse feels good about the contact and I feel good. We both have to feel good about this contact. It can't just be, I'm not going to pop the horse's bubble and just go touch whatever I want to touch. And I don't want the horse to pop my bubble either. I want us to have mutual respect, okay? Sign language and horse speak. Sign language is understood to be a fully comprehensive language system. Horse speak is similar to this idea in that you have to learn the basics, like thinking of an alphabet, before you can fully use the language to communicate. This course is about the basics. This is why it's still important to continue mirroring. And don't mirror horses that are uppity, out of control, bouncing around. That's not what you're trying to embody. You're trying to embody quiet messages. You're really trying to look at the face a lot. And you want to look at and mirror the face of a horse when they're doing quiet things, and the height of the head and neck and the shoulders and the breath. If you have kind of an uppity horse, then try to mirror him when he's quiet, like when he's eating hay or something. And do your best to mirror horses that are quiet most of the time, because that's going to embed the rhythm into your body language better. I have had some people say, oh, I mirror my horse and he bounces around and then I bounce and then he bounces. No, that's not, don't do that. Later, much later, you can go all the way using your horse speak information to do all kinds of stuff. You can do liberty work, you can do all kinds of things and maintain a nice level of security for your bubble and the horse's bubble. So the chances of being low risk is a lot better. But you don't want to start there. You want to start with establishing the quiet rhythms, okay? So think about the brain interprets body language primarily with the limbic system. Our reflexes, the 4 Fs, need to determine friend or foe faster than our rational brain has time to think about it. So in these two pictures, this is an X posture, this is an O posture. And when we are meeting another human being, the back of our brain, or the limbic part, which is like the amygdala and all the quick reflexes, is basically saying, friend or foe, what do I need to do here? And we don't want to have to think about that because we're generally thinking about the conversation, what's happening in the conversation. So we allow the subconscious to sort of filter through the body language information. So when you're learning body language on purpose, like if you take a course in human body language, which is really fun, or you're taking this course in horse body language, you're actually putting the pause button on what your brain would normally do subconsciously. And then you're taking it out of that realm and you're making it conscious. And so that's just important to realize, because some people say, oh, I feel like it's a little difficult, or it's taking some time. It can take some time at first, but the cool part is once you've got it, once you've got the rhythm of it, it goes back to the subconscious and your subconscious takes over. Like once you get it about driving a car, you don't have to think about it, you just drive the car. So this is similar. Horse speak is about opening up what is usually unconscious sense in making this knowledge concrete, repeatable, and therefore workable. And that's what's beneficial, is that it is going to sink back into your the back of your brain, and that place where it just sort of comes out. But you will have known what it took to get there and you should be able to bring it out on purpose and say, what word do I need in this situation? So this isn't about, is it right to greet now? Is it right to do go away face step? Is it right to set up above, what is it right or wrong? It's not about is it right or wrong. It's understanding the sequences that horses use to establish connection, to establish respect, to establish harmony, to establish how they're going to move together and how they're going to rest together. So there's just really cyclical, simple patterns, and those are like the alphabet. So that's what we're trying to do. So let's think about the boundary is the connection point. I've talked a little bit about the magnetic edge, like if you put your hands together and you feel a little magnetic movement there. So if you could see the bubbles around yourself and around the horse, you could also see when you're reaching through what your arms are doing, and that your body may be in the center of the bubble, but just by opening your hands, you've changed whether your bubble is big or small. Okay. Now, horses can't do that. They can move their head side to side and change the angle of their bubble, but they can't contract their bubble quite like we can because they don't have arms. So when you're putting your arm out, your hand out, you're sort of letting them know, well, this is my edge, and this is the point of contact. That's where the point of contact begins. And even if your hands are down, if you're aware of where your bubble is, you can set it. That's my bubble. And if the horse starts to sniff through, nope, no, that's my bubble. You can't come through yet. We can, but not yet. And that's really important because people generally, with horses, they think that, in the past we've thought that go away face means I don't want you, or turn and walk away means I'm leaving you. And we haven't really understood their signals for what they are. So we have a lot of misconceptions that we think horses don't like us or aren't interested in us, when it's just that some of their body language basics are a little different than ours. So defining the edge of your bubble, knowing that for them is the first point of contact, and realizing that you have to be aware of it, use it, and stay active with it. You can't just put it up and then put it down. Okay? So the next thing is how to do a go away face. And this comes up a lot. Now we have the greeting ritual. If you're going to greet, you come to the front. Just like if you're going to greet a person, you come to the front. Even if it's someone that you're doing an informal greeting with, you might be, hi, okay, in the front. When you're going to do a go away face, you need to step to the side quadrant. Because if you're in the front and you try to move the horse's face, it's not going to be very effective for them to feel like they relieved the pressure because you're still there. If you go to the side, oh, okay, that's easy. If I go to the side, oh, that's easy. But if I'm here and I try to reach around, okay, I'm still here in the way. So it's really important. And horses don't have to deal with that because they have long heads and they only have one. So just by moving their head around, and they've learned how to do it since they were babies, so they know how to do it. But for us, and when we're beginning, it's really important to step to the side. And even if you don't touch it, even if you look at it or you just step there, most of the time, they'll just yield their head a little bit. They don't have to turn it away. They might just do that, and that's fine. And you can also do the same thing. You can just look away, and that's fine too. It's not about that it's right or wrong to do go away face. It's that when horses are establishing their connection, they go through this process. They have a greeting or a check-in, and even if they're grazing and they do a greeting on the ground and they're grazing, one will do this and one will do that. And then they might do this and then they might do that. And that's just part of, would I go left? Would I go right? Let's both go right. Okay. Would I go left? Would I go right? Well, I'm going to go that way. Well, okay, well, I'm going to go that way. Okay, so it's just how they think the horses perceive the herd as though they're always on a chessboard. Everybody is a chess piece on the chessboard. And so, I want to go over there. There's a horse here. There's a horse here. So I need to go here, then here, then here. So I might ask the horse, hey, I want to go over there. What do you think? Yeah, sure, go that way. Okay, cool. I want to go over there. What do you think? No, don't go that way. Okay. I can go this way. All right. So it's just a way for them to quietly prepare each other for possible movement, possible direction. Are we going to go together? It's a way for them to just talk about it. They have a big, long body. They don't want to pop each other's bubbles. They want to keep it quiet. So this is just an easy first approach to that. So it's really all that it is. But for us, it's so new. We're kind of like, and now I have to do this, so and they seem to really understand. And the horses I've worked with, the horses I've seen people work with, seem to go, the human is learning go away face very good. So don't worry about it too much. If you have a horse who's got some troubles, then you need to focus on it. If you have a horse who's easygoing, you don't need to worry about it. It's just to be aware that is a part of their overall communication system. So like in this situation, the picture of the two horses is, believe it or not, they're playing. And that's because I know these horses. And you have the paint in the front of them who's just standing there because he's like, you guys play all the time. And you see the white horse aiming teeth and eyes and everything right at the cheek. Okay, so it's just a cool shot of that. And so the brown horse is going to go around that and do whatever they do next, which is usually they like to rear, and they're boys and they're very playful. People have seen halter tag, and this is similar. This is just a big moment. So what's important to understand about it is that this is their number one go-to in navigating space. All right. And so in the cartoon there, you've got a couple of different horses, and they're both looking at the one who's on the bottom. So they're both saying, you need to go that way. So if that was a real life situation, that horse on the bottom would be getting ready to go that way, but they don't have to nip him, drive him. That's just a polite conversation. So these are two opposite types of conversations. We can't do the big, fast, snipping, biting conversation. We're too small. We get aggressive, we get scared, we have all kinds of reactions to it. Later on, if you're really skilled at this, you can point your fingers in the air and have horses respond to that. But for now, you want to keep it quiet. Valuing what our horse values versus getting our own needs met. So this is an important picture. This horse had not gone in his stall for, I forget, a few months at least. His buddy had passed away, and his owner there had called us in to say, he just won't go in his stall. He's getting older. I'm worried about him. So she did some greeting and some go away face and whatever, and got to this nice quiet place very quickly. And where he wanted her to be was buddied up at his shoulder. And so she's in an O posture. She's got her back to his shoulder, they're buddy up. He can bring his head around and sort of invite the hug position. And so they're just sharing space, enjoying each other's company. And basically she's saying, I am your buddy. I will buddy up with you. He's wrapping his head around her. Okay, you're my buddy. Now, what she ended up doing was going into the stall, blowing away boogeyman, securing the environment, doing all those kinds of things, and then coming out of the stall. And that's it. Now, she called me later that night. He's in his stall. And then she called me a few days later. He won't leave his stall. I have to give him breakfast, lunch, and dinner in his stall because now he's happy about it. She had tried to put her halter on and bring him in. He would go in, but he'd run right out. So what's cool about this stuff is that when we understand how horses perceive and what they value and what they need, it's so much easier to help them. So that's really neat stuff. So we're going to think about X and O and body language. We're going to start with the horses. So when horses have their head up, that's X posture. When the head's going down, that's O posture. So head up, they're going towards yellow to red zone. Okay, so that's like sympathetic coming on, tension coming on, stress coming on. It could be just alert. It could be worry. It could be concern. It could be fear. But it's energy. It's energy up. Okay, when the head's coming down, they're switching into parasympathetic, rest, digest, repair. This is crucial for horses. Their bodies need a lot of that in order for well-being to happen. They're not being lazy. They're resting, repairing, and digesting. Okay, and they can't do it unless they're in parasympathetic. Okay. So just look at that. And I got to spend a weekend looking at horse brains recently and learning a lot about their nervous system and how their brains work. It's very cool stuff. So when I'm talking about O posture, I'm talking about horses naturally shifting down into their relaxed state. That can include 0 on the inside, or they might be doing O posture as a way to try to avoid difficult situation. And we'll get to that in a minute. So let's talk about O posture in people. So if you make an O posture, like I'm doing on the top here, the horse feels inclined to come around, give me his face, check in with me. It's soft, it's low, it's O. He's low O, I'm low O. Whew, we're connecting. He's definitely perky and awake. I'm definitely present and with him, but there's a nice connection, and he's greeting my knuckles. Okay, and I'm not making him do that. He's doing that, because that's a completely logical check-in point for horses. This is why I'm offering it to people. I've done it. I've done it with a lot of horses. Horses I don't even know. I'll do an O posture and put my knuckles here, and they will put their nose on it. So they need a landing pad. It's really difficult for them to know where they're supposed to, how can they touch, and what are they supposed to touch, because we don't have that long head and neck. So if you make your knuckles available, they go, oh, I can land there. That's my landing pad, instead of someplace else. Now in the picture down below, we have a confused neutral. So the fellow there is just standing kind of in a neutral, but it looks like an O to the horse. Now you might say, oh, it's really nice. He's rubbing his head on. It seems really soft and nice. It is. It looks really sweet to me too. But I also know that when a horse rubs their forehead on you, they're waiting for the point at which the person says, that's enough. All right. Eventually people say, they put their hands up, and then horses go, there you are. Okay. Now it's not that this horse doesn't want to connect. He does. The person wants to connect too, but the horse is saying, where's my landing pad? It's nowhere for me to land. I can't tell where your bubble is. This is confusing. You said, come in, I'm coming in and in and in and in. Where am I supposed to stop? Where am I supposed to land? So just keep in mind that they are wanting to connect through O posture, but we have to give them a place to land. We have to give them clarity about it. And we still have to maintain our boundary. In the picture above, I still have a boundary, but I'm also in an O posture to say you can come in. So now we're talking about that shut down versus a true O posture. So here in the picture below, this horse knows what the tools are all about. This horse has been lunged forever and ever, and she's actually very good at it. But she's at a place in her life where she's, a little tired, and you can see by her eye, there's a worried eye. The ears are sideways, so they're not back, they're not pinned, they're not, she's not in a red zone. But I would say this is a yellow zone. You can look at her chin. Her chin is a little, mouth is a little like this, and nose is clipped. So there's not a lot of deep breathing here. She's sort of, okay, here we go. Just a little bit of worry, like, oh, do I have to? And this is not, a lot of people look at this and go, that horse doesn't want to work. Horse is not ready. So something inside of this horse is not looking forward to it. And we all know if we go to a job and we don't like our job, a lot of us will quit or get a new job. So the horse has no choice. They can't quit or get a new job. So it's our responsibility to make sure that they're in a green light about work. Okay. It's not like they're being lazy or something. The horse can't say no. So in this situation, what we did is we got her tacked up and we started the lunging, and I just did a lot of enrichment through the lunging. Would stop her often and do enriching things for her, whatever was enriching for her. And the picture on the left is her after, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 minutes of doing that. And you can see the eyes have woke up and the ears are a little more perky and the nose is breathing deeper. She's chewing and licking, and there's just a more pleasant expression. So I wanted her to have the experience that you can have a green light. I'm going to make sure that this is an enriching, but we're not going to just do it to you. We're going to be here with you. So X posture in people. In the top picture, I am very clear. So fingertip pressure, right? That's like in a few slides ago, the white horse is like that. So I can make that face, but I don't have a pointy face. I can't make my teeth look like anything, but I can make my fingers look like that. Okay. So that is a pointy, pressury, intensity thing to do this with my hand, as opposed to this, which is a hold hand. Hold still, hold your horses, stay right there. I don't want anything. You stay there, I'll stay here. I want to find the edge of the bubble and just make contact with you. I just want to hold between me and you. So that's this. This is, I actually want you to move. Okay, so this is hold, connection. This is, I want you to move. Below, I'm doing a refined X. So now I've got my hands down and I'm using my chest, my shoulders, my belly button, my eyes, and he understands that. So he's also moving to the side. Now, if someone has an X posture, okay, what happens is they can be moving the horse, but they didn't realize it. So the horse is moving away from them because they have an X posture, but they don't mean to be moving the horse away. And so that's why I wanted to bring it up. Because if you're a very X person, you're just blowing your horse out all the time, and they might be fidgeting on the cross ties or dancing in the rain, whatever, wherever they have too much energy. They're always, well, I'll do it. And a lot of times it's people who are just too X. So if you're not sure if you're an X or an O person, ask your friends, because they will tell you always. People are always like, oh, you're totally X. No, I'm an O. No, you're an X, or vice versa. So that's a good one, good party trick. So we're going to talk about X posture in horses, high head from play versus a tense high head. So on the right, we have horses at play. The bubbles are evenly spaced. Ears are perky, heads are up, eyes are open, the tails are swishing. There's a lot of motion and movement and fluidity. And the horse on the left, her eyes are bulging, tented and worried, ears are too perky. All right, so there's one thing about sort of forward, like eager ears, eager beckoning. Ooh, what are we doing? And there's another thing. Okay, and so this horse on the left is overly sensitive. Okay, everything is on high alert. So it's important to know the difference. A horse in X posture can also be emotionally tense. So again, the horse on the left, I'm asking for her to move. She's considering. The ears are sideways. She's thinking. The horse on the right, we were walking along. He saw a boogeyman. I don't remember if it was a sound or something, but he's in a emotionally tense state. He's not breathing. He's staring. And so I'm blowing away boogeyman for him. Now, if you have a horse who's got a boogeyman and you're on the other side of where the boogeyman is, sometimes you have to go to that side and sort of protect them. Say, I'll get on the side the boogeyman is on. Because you don't want them feeling like you're on the off side, the boogeyman's over there. And to get away from the boogeyman, they need to kind of go past you and they might push into you. So it's a really good practice to say, all right, let me get over to the side the boogeyman is on, if you have that kind of tense horse. But eventually, again, this isn't about right and wrong. This is about, it's a communication. And what you're communicating about is, I see that something scared you. I will pay attention to it. I will validate that you see something. And I will also say, all's clear. Now, if you go, boogeyman, all's clear, and the horse doesn't believe you, then you weren't believable. Or there really is something there. Or you did the all's clear too soon. So you might have to go back and say, 1, 2, 3. Okay, all's clear. Sometimes they just need a little bit more time to process. Horses take time to process. They're fast to react, but slow processors. Okay, so give them a little bit more time to realize what you're saying. And at the end of the day, you shouldn't have to keep blowing away boogeyman after a certain point. So after a week or two, it should be something that you really don't need to go to that much. If you have a horse who has still chronic boogeyman, there's other things going on. Artistically and culturally, many of us have come to unconsciously associate an X posture in horses with power and energy, or even as a sign of beauty. We can therefore be encouraged by well-intentioned trainers to wake them up while we are working with them. So horses have a thing in their brain that's called the reticular activating system, and it's like do 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 do. It's always aware, and even when they're at rest, it's still there, which is why they can be sleeping and hear a noise. Okay, so they don't need to be woken up; they're awake, and if we can figure out how to keep everything in a low intensity, and say to the horse, "You pay attention to me because I will watch the world for you." That's really what this is all about. I've gone for years with how do you get the horse to pay attention to you? And there's like, make him look at you, give him a cookie, get him going with things to do. There's a million and one ways. But what I found was take care of the environment and he will look at you because now you're the protector. And it's so simple. And I'm like, that is so much easier than all this other stuff because now the horse is like, you're my person. I'm just going to stay with you. And the point of doing all these things is to say, I'm your person. I'll watch your back. That's really what it's all about. You don't need to wake them up. They're awake. They're watching. If they're shutting down and going stoic, that's something else. That's a yellow light. It's I'm not here. I'm not in a green light. I'm not in my parasympathetic. I'm tense, I'm imploding on the inside or whatever's going on for them. But so something else is going on. And horses are paying attention. Just trust me. Intensity levels. So basically we have big intensity, low intensity. So picture on the left, everyone's low intensity, big. Picture on the right, they're in big intensity. And you'll tend to see a herd either in motion or not in motion. Sometimes there'll be two that maybe play, but most of the time there's an agreement because digest, rest, and repair are essential to the horse's well-being. So horses make sure they're doing plenty of it, okay? So if they do run around to play or to rearrange themselves or because they're in a new environment, that's okay. But you'll see 90% of the rest of the time they're in rest. So that's good news for us because it means we can get a lot done with not looking like we're doing that much. So let's talk about the intensity level. So level 1 is intention. That's a horse looking. They look. Maybe they step. They're just signaling. I think I might go that way. They're not committed to it yet, but they're broadcasting because if they're on the chessboard, I'm going to move to that. I'm going to go down there. Okay. So any other horses can see that broadcast. This is when they're in low intensity. Level 2, asking, they might be like, I want to go that way. Who's coming with me? So the horse in the middle is the one moving. The ones all around are standing still. So the one who's moving is the one who's asking. All right. So you'll see horses sometimes start to move towards something and then kind of look at it, buddy, or swing. They make this sort of swinging sensation, or they with the shoulder, or sometimes with the pelvis. There's sort of a, and it'd be like us going, come here. If my arm was in a sling, I might go, come here. I wouldn't be able to do this gesture. I'd have to do it like that. And you'll see them kind of roll their shoulder, roll their pelvis, roll their head. Not this thing. That's tension. But are they just as lightly like that? Higher intensity. Requesting. So now you get a horse, head is low, he's aiming, he's got that pointy look, ears are pointy, eyes are pointy, mouth is pointy. He's aiming at a button. He is definitely saying, I want this to happen. Move out of my way, move with me, go here, go there, whatever. But he's, I'm requesting that this happen. He's not all the way to biting or making a big stink about it, but he's letting everyone know this is not I'm not just thinking, or I'm saying, I really want this to happen. Now, level 4, insisting, is now you've had, this is not play. I'm not talking about play. I'm talking about two horses who have reached a level where they now have to, one has to make it happen. So now you are going to have a bite, a strike, a kick. And that is really not all that common in a healthy herd. So it happens, of course. But in the scope of 24 hours of the day, how often does it actually happen? In a healthy herd that's got balance and there's a mentor and there's guides and there's leaders, all, all the right stuff is there, doesn't happen a lot. And if it does, it's done. One and done. And the challenge with human beings is a lot of us think we're at a level 1 and we're actually at a 4 to them. Or we have a horse who we think we're at a level 1, but we're so X that the horse is really sensitive and they're like, everything you do is a 4. So just kind of, it's a way to assess yourself. What level of intensity do I need? It's a way to assess your horse. What level of intensity is he generally living at? Do I have like a level 3 horse? Everything is big, or do I have a level 1 horse? Everything's pretty mellow. So it's just a good way to kind of think about it. It's not do it this way. It's just a way to map where you are and where your horse is at. And you might have to do a level 4 at some point. You might have to say, now get through the gate. Now stop biting that other horse. But I didn't have to do more than snap my finger to be a level 4. So what's cool about it is understanding that it's not about I have to get out a whip and a rope and go chick, chick. It's just understanding I know how to calibrate a level 4 and then let it go. If you go to level 4 and then stay there, that's not, you didn't calibrate. Okay, so going to level 4 is hard for us. It just is. We get all adrenalized and we stay there. So try to do everything 1, 2, maybe 3. Try not to go to 4. And the other side of it if you keep everything quiet and then you purposefully do have to go to a 4 for some reason, the horse is going to be like, wow, okay, I don't want you to do that again. Okay. Not because you punished them or you were mean to them, but because they understand that range. Okay. So for instance, this is low calorie conversation. The white horse is a mentor and the black horse is a joker. And the first weeks as they were together, that black horse, he just walks right in, starts eating the mentor's hay. If you notice, the mentor has his hoof on the hay. You're not taking my hay. And he's doing go away face. He's doing go away face, go away face, go away face, go away face. And finally, by the third picture, this is a little time had gone by, there's the joker and he's eating hay, but he's quiet. Okay, he's even got his chest a little bit backward. He's got one leg a little bit backwards. So he's learning how to be polite, how to share hay. And the mentor is doing it by reinforcing low calorie conversations, not by chasing him all around. And here we have, again, the joker comes up and this is a different lead horse in that herd. And they're playing ball. The lead horse says, go away face. The joker says, okay, fine, and leaves. And the lead horse goes back to playing ball. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm not making this stuff up. They would prefer to do most of their interactions in a low calorie way. And we can use that, right? That is such an advantage for us. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about linger longer as long as it's not dangerous. If you're in a situation where stuff is out of control, that's not what I'm talking about. That's do whatever you got to do to survive a situation. But if you're, if you're practicing and here's my part, here's a thing I'm asking, or here's a O posture, or let's do that. Hang out there. Do one thing and wait. We are so impatient. When a horse is processing, the horse in this picture, the man is trying to do a posture. The horse in this picture is processing. It's a classic image. So it's a neutral head and neck. The eye is a little bit inward. Ears are moving a little bit. They're thinking, they're processing. The mouth is not overly tight. The chin is not overly tight. The nose is not overly tight. But there's the horse is not with the person quite yet because the horse is in themselves. Now think that they're taking in information, eyes, nose, mouth, ears. That information is going to then move. You'll see a little thing in the pole. Okay. So if you want to encourage the horse, you say, hey, why don't you go ahead and process? Then you do this, or this, or this. But something that you do with your own neck, and you'll see, give it 30 seconds to a minute, you'll see the horse go in response. That means, okay, information can start traveling out of the face down the neck. Now is the horse thinking, the information is now traveling from my face to my neck? No, they're not thinking, they're just experiencing it. but it's similar to us. Like, we don't necessarily think our way through all that stuff, but we experience it. So if someone is like got a frog in their throat, or they're choked up, I don't know what to say, I'm all choked up. You also can't breathe. You can't feel, you can't feel your body. People who've been through really stressful situations sometimes say, I can't really feel anything. Horses are mammals. It's similar. So the process needs to go from the face to the neck, then to the chest. You'll see a little, maybe they'll rearrange the front legs, and to the barrel. They'll take some kind of bigger breath. Then finally to the hips, to the pelvis. Maybe they'll rearrange the hind end. And finally, the tail. Okay, the tail will lift a little bit. Maybe they pass a little gas. That's when the process is complete. And after you see that tail lift, you'll see almost a ripple effect back through the horse. And then they do something. So at that point, they're like, oh, this? And they offer something. So when you give them that full minute to process, you'll be surprised what happens, because they're learning to comprehend what your gestures mean. They're learning to pay attention, listen, think it through, and give a good response. And if you like it and you go, yeah, then, they're going to say, oh, okay. All right. If the more we take a breath, the more we have a positive expression, positive emotional state, the more they go, oh, that's what they wanted. Okay, great. Next time, they give it quicker. Next time, you barely even have to ask. Okay. So give them the chance to process when you're making an initial request, and really watch for it. It's kind of cool. Let's talk about go away face in action. There's two ways to activate the go away face. One is touching it, and one is indicating in the air. Like we saw in the pictures before, the horse was indicating in the air. Another thing and the other picture, the horse was actually touching it. So they want both. They want to know, what does your touch feel like, and what does your air pressure feel like? And a lot of times horses will be satisfied with the air pressure, and then all of a sudden one day go, I actually touch it. I want to know. Sometimes horses, you start touching it and they go, what if I lean into it? And then you say, I'm just going to leave my finger here. And then they say, well, that's uncomfortable. Okay. So most of the time, this is not a problem for horses. This is easy for them to understand. Okay. But if you have a horse who has a broken go away face button because they're a youngster, they didn't get enough socialization, they had rough handling, whatever, do the appropriate thing for that horse. Maybe it's just do it yourself. All right. If you need it because a horse is charging out of a stall, or they're in the way, there's something, there's a reason why you need to direct them with it, then you practice it. If you don't need it, it's a quiet horse who's not looking to require it. This isn't about right or wrong. It's just something to say. Do you need to say it? Some horses you need to say it. Some you do not necessarily need to say it, but you want to know how to say it. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So here we're doing connect and respect over the stall. I cannot stress enough how important an artificial barrier is, because it helps you keep your zero, and it helps the horse keep their zero. So what I mean about that is, when you have an artificial barrier, your heart rate can stay low, your breathing can stay low, so can the horses. So if you're in with each other and they get a little tense, you can't help it. Your body is designed to get tense also. If a horse is getting tense in front of you, your nervous system is supposed to protect you. It's supposed to go, we might have to get out of here, this might have, and your frontal lobes might be like, oh no, we're fine, I've got it, but another part of your brain's like, okay. So you want to make sure that you actually can activate on purpose your breathing system. You want to activate on purpose. I can lower my heart rate, I can feel that tension, and I can get rid of it. Okay. And until you can do that, you're going to have to practice. And people are like, I don't know how to get my zero. You just have to practice, right? And go take a meditation class, do some yoga, paint a picture, whatever, listen to music, use essential oils. There's 1,000,001 ways to support yourself in having it, but your horse needs it. When you have an artificial barrier, it's a great way to practice creating connection and creating respect And it also makes the horse feel safe. And a lot of horses that won't engage when I'm in there with them will engage over a stall. So it works for them too. So now here we have a reason to do some of the postures. So this horse did tend to charge out of the threshold, and think about it. A threshold is a narrow space. In nature, thresholds and bottlenecks are where predators like to lurk because there's not a lot of wiggle room for the prey. So we put a lot of thresholds and little narrow spaces and bottlenecks in our horse's world, and then we wonder why they're nervous about it. Nature says you could get hurt here, and then if a horse has ever walked out of a stall and like caught, you know, the clip on the side of their ribs or something, and they're like, I did, it bit me, the stall bit me when I was leaving it. So this horse tended to charge out of the stall. So I did the connect and respect, and we got, you know, it's all nice and good over the stall. And we put on a halter and lead rope. Okay, so now I'm going to do X, aiming my fingers at go away face and towards her shoulder. So I got one finger towards go away face and one finger towards the shoulder. Stay there. Then I do O. Okay, come here. So she takes a couple steps. Then I go back to X and I aim a finger at go away face. So I don't want her to run through my bubble. So I'm reminding her where the bubble is. Then because she stops, I say, thank you. I drop my head and she drops her head. She drops her head and turns it towards me. This is nice. This is a good thing. She's blinking her eyes. She's relaxing her mouth. She's, oh, we're together. I can be connected with you at the edge of your bubble. Okay. Then I drop my head all the way and I point my toe. Okay. And that's an indicator to say what I call aw shucks. I am not saying the horses are saying aw shucks. They don't verbalize. They don't have that concept. I'm saying aw shucks for people because it's an expression that means aw shucks, you know, just relax. I could have just said lower the intensity, and I could just picture people being intellectual. Lower the intensity and lower the intensity. So aw shucks puts you in a different emotional state. You can call it something else if you want to. But the point is, when I dip my toe a little bit, look down and breathe out, she drops her nose to the ground. It's my human equivalent of a horse dropping their nose to the ground. And they drop their nose to the ground when things are safe. If you put your nose to the ground and something's down there, predators down there, they can get you. So by dropping their nose to the ground, they're in a state of feeling safe, or they're in a state of dropping intensity or releasing pressure. Okay, so we're both just going, whew, we did that. That's good. Good for us. We're calm. We're zero. Okay. Normally this horse runs out of the stall. So that's a heck of a lot better. All right. We're going to talk about passive versus active release. Horses have natural ways to release tension, stress. They roll, they nap, they sleep, they hold their positions, they have their bubbles, they do all these things. They use all of their expressions, they stand square. There's a lot of things that they do to release stress. Now, if we human beings put horses into a high stress situation, then the horse can't necessarily de-stress by themselves. We'll talk about that again in a minute. And what I'm leading into here, the active zero, again, this is the misconception. A lot of people say, oh, he just stands around a field all day, doesn't do anything. He can work for the 1 hour I show up. And okay, sure. And a lot of horses like to go do something. My horses love it. They're like, oh, we're going to ride today. Oh my God, it's awesome. Okay. So, you know, they like to come out and do something, but it doesn't mean when they're standing around, they're not doing anything. In fact, they're actively going to zero. All these horses are in agreement, nose in, butts out. Okay, they're nose in, butt out. And that's like, okay, inside here, we can stay focused in here, butts are out. If any danger came around, all of us could kick it. The horse to the far left is doing a butt to shoulder stand. So that's like, we'll watch each other's backs. The horse who's laying down is actually in the center. If you see that that's a triangle coming out, okay, then the horse in the front is in the center of that triangle. So by that horse in the front has got the most protection because that whole triangle is around them. So just think that everything is a chessboard, okay? So being actively zero actually takes work. So when we're really trying to restore zero, let's say a horse is, their work is hard. Like therapy horses work really hard. School horses work really hard. It's very stressful to do what they do. Taking a horse on a 100-mile trail ride is a lot of work. Trailering a horse, a lot of us we like to trailer the horse around and then go for a trail ride. And that's fun. And some horses really like it too. I'm not saying don't do it, but it's also a level of stress. It just is. I used to take one of my horses to the shows all the time. And actually she loved it. She was a drama queen. She had to have a ribbon. If she didn't get the ribbon, I had to show up with a ribbon or she'd pout. It was still stressful. I still noticed the next couple of days she was very tired. So what we're talking about is if we put the stress in because of what we're doing, what we think is fun, we're doing high stress level activities, we're responsible for taking the stress out. They can do passive releases, but sometimes we need to do active release. So at the end of a therapy session or the end of a riding lesson, there's a really great way to take that stress out. It's 1, 2, 3, down one or the other side of the throat, right in the jugular groove. Okay, the vagal nerve, right? There's you can look up polyvagal theory. I highly recommend you do that. It's great. Talks about it on YouTube or things like that. But I'm just keeping it very simple. If you just stroke down the jugular groove, 1, 2, 3, what happens is horses release. Okay, so I did not read that in a book. I was working with a lot of horses who had high stress jobs, and I would go to them and I would do different activities to see what helped quickly, what helped efficiently, and what helped every time. And I tried many different things. And when I did this stroking, the horses would go, and sometimes you do the stroking and they're kind of like, what are you doing? And then before long, they're like, do it. Yeah. Now my horses are at a point where when I show up in the back pen, they just go, do my neck. They're not even having any stress. They just like it. So it seems like it's helping to release tension in the vagal nerve, which is going to drop them into parasympathetic, bring them towards their zero. Okay. There's other ways to do it. I've talked about massaging the mouth. It's very important. If you're not comfortable doing it, hire someone, hire a massage person to come teach you, hire an acupuncturist. Get someone to do that with you or for you or teach you how to do it. But basically, this is an easy way to start to induce relaxation, even if the horse is in a tense state. So I do want to say you want to practice this before you need to practice it. So when they're already relaxed, that's when you want to start. And then when they're, kind of here, you could reach up 1, 2, 3, and you'll see horses, after like a minute, because they need to process, kind of go, and then kind of go, do that again. I've had it happen a lot. So here I'm in these situations and I'm doing the stroke down the front of the neck. And you can see the black horse on the left, she'd just come in, it was raining, it was cold. So I did a very quick greeting and I'm like 1, 2, 3. And this just a single stroke and you can already see the shift in the horse's eye from the time I'm at the top to the time I'm at the bottom. And that's the point of it, is that there's something in her eye that's going, okay. The horse in the round pen, it took me a long time to spiral into the round pen. She was very nervous. So the last thing I'm going to do is ask her to move. I want to find 0 before I ask for movement. We did end up having some nice movement that day, but not until she had a 0. So I'm going in and I'm doing that. Another level of enrichment. Okay, so we're going from releasing stress now to adding enrichment. So these things go together. So this is really fun. Now, when horses move each other around, they'll do the go away face. And if they really want more movement, they'll go to the mid-neck button and to the shoulders. They might go dung, 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 and they can do this. And that's it, all 3 buttons. They can do that fast. They have a long face, long neck, eyes. If their eyes go ding, 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 they can even go dip, 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 nip, 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 and you'll see little wet spots. Okay? That's how I knew they were actually doing it, because I'm like, did they actually touch? And I go and I'd see tiny little wet spots. Like, they literally touched all 3 buttons. They can do it in the air from 20 feet away. So they'll move another horse with those buttons, but when they're friends, they'll sniff each other there. They'll sniff the mid-neck. They'll go up to the back of the pole and do the follow me. They might sniff the face or press their face against the face. They might press shoulder on shoulder. And so palms touching is like a flat surface, horse touching. That's why the lady had her back to the horse in the other one. But sniffing the neck is literally a signal that says, we're friends. I'm not going to bite you. I'm not going to drive you away. So it's really sweet. And most horses like it. Some love it. Some are, a little indifferent, but most like it. So we want to talk a little bit more about other enriching ideas. And people, I've noticed, have some opinions about horses eating. And I'm not sure why or where this came from. I could guess, I could postulate, but let's not. Instead, let's just talk about that eating is enriching for horses. Eating is important to them. It's important to me. When I want to hang out with friends, I say, let's go out to dinner. Let's do lunch. Let's go get a cup of coffee. That's what we do. And then we share the eating or drinking coffee enrichment experience, and we talk and we hang out. It's exactly the same for horses, just because they need a lot of hay or a lot of grass in order to sustain themselves. So munching is a common thing. It happens pretty much all day. It's still important to them, and they're still communicating while they're eating. And I recently heard of a story who a couple horses had gotten abandoned, and one had gotten loose and was going to a neighboring farm. And they said, wow, where's this horse coming from? He's so skinny. And they threw a hay bag at him, and he picked up the hay bag and he walked through the woods. And so they're, where'd he go? And so a couple of days later, they saw him, they do it again, but they followed him this time, and they went all the way like a mile or so through the woods. And there's this other horse who's stuck in a pen, and he's bringing the hay bag to the other horse. That's a true story. So, sharing resources with a horse can be a really enriching thing for them, and it can be really enriching for us. Okay. So taking your horse grazing is an opportunity to practice letting go. It's a good time to practice your lead rope skills. You can do the scoop to encourage the face to come back at you. If you have a good relationship with the girth, you can touch it 3 times. If you don't, if the horse is touchy-feely, they get irritated, they get defensive, then you wouldn't want to do it. But if they have a good relationship, you can hold the girth, you can pat the girth, they're okay there. Then you could go tap, tap, tap. And it's not stab, stab, stab. No. Tap, tap, tap. No, I have a horse who's really into grazing and really likes to pull his head and eat. And even if he's been out grazing for a while and you go to get him, he's like, no, I need more grass. And so for him, I can touch his girth very easily. So tap, tap, tap. And he goes, all right, picks up his head. Let's go. When a foal is laying on the ground and the mother wants him to go, they'll go sniff, sniff, sniff at the girth. So it's already in there. That's why it's cool. But you don't want to tap any button if you don't have a relationship with that button. That's why I'm saying to go through them one at a time. Spend time in the field with your horse. Don't bother them or interrupt them, but pick some greens, throw it their way. Look at the greens. Just because it's green doesn't mean it's food. Just because it's green doesn't mean it's grass. It could be an herb. It could be a false clover, which you shouldn't feed your horse. All kinds of things. So pay attention to what they're eating. Feed them hay. Out of the hay, I've had horses, I give them hay, and I put my hands out, and they put hay right in my hands. And as a horse, it's really sweet, right? And sometimes horses I've never even met before. And they're like, here's some hay for you. The other day, one of my horses snuck some hay out of another horse's mouth, So feeding time is important to them. It's valuable to them. And if you just say, hey, I'm going to take 10 minutes and just pay attention to something that you find valuable, then they get really soft and they get like, oh, especially if you're picking through the hay and you're like, do you like seeds? And they'll sniff it. No, I don't like the seeds. Do you like the grasses? Oh yeah, I like the grass. And it's really fun. It's very subtle and gentle and nice. If you have a food aggressive horse, this is hard to do. So then you have to set it up to do it on the other side of a fence. You can pick grass on the other side of a fence and throw it through. You can put your hay along a fence line, so then you can pull at some hay and throw it through. So this is at rescues when I've had really food aggressive horses, or I've had horses who were just aggressive. I just spent time feeding them hay. Spent a lot of time doing it for no reason whatsoever except to show up, add enrichment, and walk away. And within a week or 2 weeks, all of a sudden that horse is looking for me. They're rolling the hay towards me. It's to completely change their attitude. So it's a valuable thing to do. Be smart, be safe. Don't set yourself up for a dangerous situation, but figure out how you can add this enrichment. Because work should be enriching also. So if your horse knows that they can come to you, they can be soft with you, that you care about what they care about, you're not in competition with their food. It's not like they say, oh, food's more important than my person. No, food's important. You're important too. Share it with them. And finally, enrichment in action. Here we have Heidi is about to go in, riding her horse. She's at I think you're at a festival. Is this?
Canadian Horse Expo.
The Canadian Horse Expo. So she's sort of showing what they can do. And he gets a little worried going into a show or something. And so she's sniffing his neck and rubbing his vagal nerve. And he loves, this horse melts. You sniff his neck and he just gets all like his lips wiggle and his ears go sideways. And he blinks a lot. And you'll see him actually go like that. And so he loves it. And she's adding the stroke on top of it. And then he gets ready and boom, off he goes. So it's really sweet. And this is one thing that you can immediately take to the saddle. Your homework is thinking of horse speak like a sign language. What can you see? Are you leaving your hands in sign language position or did you put them away? Because if you're like, go away face, you stop talking. If you say, go away face, you're still active. Okay. It's very important to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And don't just go subconscious and, oh, I'm talking to my friend and I'm not paying any attention anymore. Before you know it, bump. Horse is like, where'd you go? You were talking to me and then you stopped talking to me. Look for signs of zero. That's a horse who's really going into eyes, relax, mouth, chin, ears, the head and neck, the back, rounded shoulders, rounded hips. So like, okay. Look for signs of O posture going towards zero, as opposed to O posture, but they're actually in yellow. They're not in green. They're not in red, like a big X, but they're not at zero either. So it's really important to look for signs of it. Practice low intensity levels. So try to use the lowest intensity you can. Okay, when you're anything, leading, this or that, if you can stay quiet. A lot of people say, I am low. And this is what they're doing on the lead rope. I am low intensity. Okay, you really got to pay attention, okay? If you're low intensity, you should be able to maybe do this. Try this on the lead rope. You can close your fingers if you need to. Try having a relaxed wrist. A lot of people are very much here. A lot of people are feeling like the rope is what's controlling the horse. Your body language is what's controlling the horse. I've had horses that are confirmed runaways. 10 minutes on a rope with me, I can lead them like this. I can have one finger. I can drop the lead rope from this hand completely and just have the tail over here and just use my gestures and have them do whatever I want because I'm clear with my signals, okay? So it's not about the rope, it's about your gestures and they're following your body. The horses don't lead with ropes with other horses. They follow other horses' body language. So the cleaner and clearer you get with your body language, the more your horse wants to follow you, the easier it is for them to follow you. Use go away face to claim space. Okay, begin a conversation over a fence or a stall to stay zero so that you're like, I'm claiming my space. You got to stay zero. Go away face, or even just go away face. That's very nice. Thank you. Always say thank you. Come back to a positive expression. And make sure that you're really paying attention to your X and your O. So you can be thinking that you're X enough, because maybe you're an O person, so just doing this seemed like enough, but the horse is still on top of you. Well, you might have to go to here and leave it here. Okay? If you need that, or if the horse is really big energy, you just need to leave it here. If you're too much of an X person, then you might need to practice a lot more O. Okay? So just pay attention to that kind of stuff. And make sure you're making space for your enrichment. You're making space to de-stress your horse. you're practicing, stroking the vagal nerve and sharing hay and sharing resources, and realize that that's important to them.
Ask Sharon your questions so that you can learn more about specifics that you can utilize of horse speak with your own horse.
Yep, or your own situation. Let's see here. Starting next week, I'll be volunteering at an equine therapy program for kids with different abilities. I assume I won't have a lot of bonding time with the horses. What's the best way to establish rapport and leadership in the therapy horse, especially first time meeting them? Just as an aside, I'm not a horse owner. I'm practicing horse speak with my neighbor's Minnie. That's
Perfect.
awesome.
Minis are the best.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Establishing rapport with horses that are working is really important. And also it can be a little tricky because sometimes they're kind of living in that yellow. Okay. So they're like, I'm working, it's going to be in my yellow. You're not really going to go towards a green. So what you want to do is breathe more and figure out, does this horse need me to blow away some boogeyman? Does it need greeting? Does it need more space? Or sometimes horses doing therapy are carrying a lot of people, and there's a lot of people close. So if you show up and you're like, hey, how about we have space first? And you do the space, the bubble thing first. They're like, oh, you're good. You're not going to crawl all over me. And right away, that builds rapport. They're like, okay, they relax around you. If you have a horse who's really like, I like everybody, then you might need to create some space so that you show leadership. So there's different reasons to create space. If a horse is really nervous, this is counterintuitive, but a horse is really nervous and you do a couple of gentle go away faces, you're saying, don't worry, I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to pop your bubble. You come to me when you're ready. And we just did this actually with the Minnie, who was very nervous. And the girl did 3 go away faces. And then the Minnie got so bold that she actually went under where she was sitting, went under her legs and moved her legs to get to the hay that was under there. And by the end was so bold that it was, she was walking in and around all the people and all this stuff. And that was
in a very enclosed space.
Very tiny
too.
space. With
it was amazing.
a bunch of people all around
Yeah.
in 2 days.
She didn't even want us near her at the beginning.
At the beginning. It's
It was
really funny.
Really great.
So you can use the space creation for a lot of different reasons. So it's just assess the horse you're looking at. Are they nervous? Are they frantic? Are they shut down? What are they? And then, well, what tool do I need for this horse, for this situation? I always greet every horse because I learn a lot. Some horses are like, yeah, greet me. Some are like, I don't really want to greet you. So then I'll just breathe towards them. So you're really just using the language to say, who are you? What do you need? And if you, on a simple level, if you can do things 3 times in a row. So if I'm going to put a halter on, I might bring the halter up and then take it away, bring it up and then take it away, bring it up and take it away, literally that fast, and then take a breath. And then look at them, you ready for the halter? And even just something as simple as that, horses go, that was nice. You gave me some space and a minute to process that. Okay. So there's simple ways, sort of tricks to get in there. You're just thinking in terms of how does the horse see me? What does the horse value about this interaction? And that's how you build the rapport. So we have, my horse isn't doing a third greeting, at least muzzle to fist. He's blowing quietly at me. Is that a third greeting? Yes. If he's blowing at you for the third greeting, he's saying, to be connected with you, I want more room in it. And that's okay. That's totally fine. Some horses don't like to touch. They have old mouth injuries, or they're just that way. Not every person loves a big hug. Okay, some people love a hug, and some are like, hi, and they need a little bit more space. So that's totally fine. If he's breathing at you, you got it. That's awesome. I meant to say he used to do 3 muzzle greetings, but not now. That's okay. So it's similar to when you first introduce yourself to a person, you might shake their hand. And once you know each other, hi. That's all it is.
Go away face.
I have one horse in my herd that likes to do the 3 touches every morning that I go out, and one horse in my herd that can't be bothered. So it's just a personality thing. And all you're doing is saying, hey, I want to offer a check-in. So you just do it quicker. Hey, okay. It's just a way to acknowledge it. You can even blow from a distance. You can blow and put your knuckle out from a distance. You're saying, here's a place to land. If you're doing an O posture and drawing the horse, you're doing turn the key, come to me, and drawing the horse, then you have your greeting knuckle as a place for them to land. Like I was doing with that horse, I had 2 knuckles together in my O posture. So just think that this is the initial getting started in conversation, and now you've gotten started and the horse is like, what's next? Okay, so they're saying, I know you, so it doesn't need to be so formal anymore. Some like it, some don't. So your horse is just like, we don't need to be that formal. So that's okay. So you can breathe at them, acknowledge them. When I'm walking down the hill to my whole horse herd, I'll go, and then I'll do this. And I'm walking. And then I get closer and I'll do one of these. And by the time I get there, they've all done it. They've all gone in the air with their nostrils. They've done this, they've done this. And by the time I get there, they're like, scratch me, I'm ready. Okay. I'm used to walking side by side when leading a horse. The mini likes to walk behind me. Should I encourage side by side? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If the mini is walking fine and happy in a follower position, that's what that is. It's a follower position. And they're not threatening you. They're not, the ears aren't pinned. They're not trying to drive you forward. There's nothing wrong with it. Horses lead, I don't know, the previous one we talked about sandwiching. There's a horse in front, a horse in the middle, and a horse in the back. That's a sandwich position. And so this mini is just saying, I like to be behind, I like to follow. So that's okay. I would encourage the mini to be in other positions just to practice, but not because it's wrong. But I would like to say, hey, how about we lead and I'm near your girth? What about if you went ahead? If I practice long lining with you, that's you're being ahead of the sandwich. So just think about that's the horse's comfortable position. Now, can we build comfort in other positions so we have more than one way to do something? Okay. So again, there's a lot of rules in horsemanship where this is right. The horse has to be behind you. Like there's a certain natural horsemanship technique where they need to be behind you. Or the horse needs to be right here. You have to be holding right here under the jaw for control, or you should be right in the center of their neck. There's all kinds of rules. And what I'm saying is horses aren't led by the lead rope. They're led by your body. So the more you practice your X, your O, what you're aiming at, where your core is aiming, and also your footsteps. Remember, we talked about that before. We'll talk about it again. The way that your feet is, if you're going, then that's what they're following. They're going to look like that too. So it's very important that you have slow, heavy footsteps, a lot of breathing, a lot of presence. Bring presence and mindfulness to your body positions. Okay. If you have a fast-paced horse and you start picking up your knees and making a little bit more of an effort to round your legs, it's really funny. So many people, I'm at a clinic and I say to someone, pick up your knees, and they do, and the horse with their front legs, whoa, they start picking up their knees, and the whole audience is laughing because they're like, wow, that just happened. Mm-hmm. So that's called fun with feet or matching steps, and you can do that from any position. Okay, so we're just kind of getting started. We're just really focusing on the boundary is important for the connection to feel good for you and the horse. And we're working on some of the connections, stroking the vagus nerve to release stress, sniffing the mid-neck button, sharing resources. So now that we've got a boundary, what happens when we get inside the boundary? How can we make it feel good on the inside? So as long, if a horse is doing things and you both feel comfortable, great. And there's nothing to fix. But if you want to try some other things and see what they think about it, horses don't, we looked at their brains. What they don't do is invent new things. What they do is memorize experience and memorize patterns. And so they're good at problem solving, but they're not going to come up with necessarily a brand new agenda. There's certain horses, that's why I think maybe what jokers do is jokers are always like, they're always into everything. So I think maybe they create by accident new pathways, and that helps the whole herd to have something new. Otherwise, maybe they would just stay stuck in their pattern. I don't know. But we show up and we have new ideas. And so you share one new idea with the horse and let them process. Let them think about it. Let them go, And once they've absorbed it, they may offer it back to you. So I think that's what's fun about this process is they're great at problem solving. They're great at memorizing patterns. They're just not necessarily great at coming up with new ideas. We're great at coming up with new ideas. We're not necessarily good at understanding how patterns are soothing. We get into patterns are right, patterns are rigid, patterns of perfection. Horses use patterns to create soothing. So we want to be learning how to use patterns to create soothing as well.
And we've gotten some feedback from folks who are like, oh, I just let my horse go in front and just investigate the environment. And it's really not working out very well for them, because what we're asking is people to go and lead the horse to the object, so that you're being the leader and taking charge, so that it's your idea to go to the safety object, and that they can see you as the leader, because they don't really feel, a lot of horses don't feel comfortable as being the leader and trying to map what the experience is going to be. There are some horses, it's all the sandwich concept. You know, the one out in front is going to be doing the mapping. And depending on what kind of horse you have, that horse may be not up for that kind of job.
Mm-hmm. This was a good week, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go out, have some fun. Let us know how things are going, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much, folks. Take care.